got millions of people trading it all around the world. But I just think everybody, whether you're an investor or whether you're, ordinary Main Street person, people should not overreact. That's the important thing. They should not overreact. In America, we have an incredibly strong public health system. And as I said to Stu Varney, President has taken rapid-fire, unprecedented actions to help protect in the event of emergency or further deterioration. I think these are very good things. They're very constructive things.
Larry, there's been rumors on Wall Street for several days now that the president would consider more extreme measures to respond to this, potentially even up to suspending the tariffs on China as one emergency measure due to the virus. Is the president considering that or any other response measure here?
Eamon, there's nothing definite that I can report. There's a lot of conversations in and out of the Oval Office. I was with him yesterday for quite a while talking about one thing or another. We're dealing with this almost a day at a time, and we have no precipitous actions right now. Again, it's sometimes a hard case to make in the middle of one of these crises, which is part psychology and part fact, but I just don't think anybody ought to panic right now. And we are going to stay the course on our policies, tax cuts and deregulation and energy and trade, and it's worked. We believe it's worked, and the economy is sound. I'm actually still watching China. People have moved from China to Italy or other places, but I'm still watching China, and I've gotten to know Tim Cook very well, CEO of Apple. He's a brilliant man, and I was just really interested in the interview with him yesterday because he was rather optimistic about reopening factories, and I guess the Starbucks people feel the same way. And the other thing is, Eamon, just on the economic stock market point, it may change and it may worsen, but right now, these sort of real-time Fed, these regional bank surveys, people should pay attention to them. They're sending off good signals on the economy. And the numbers we have in hand in January exceeded expectations. That's why that Atlanta Fed thing is at 2.7. Now, we've got another month to go for the quarter, and then after that. So we will see. But no, I don't think we're going to take any precipitous policy moves here, at least not at the present time.
Larry, how much more shot can this market take before there's long-term effects on the economy? What do you think? Keep you in your lane.
Well, yeah, thank you. Look, the markets has short-run correction, and I guess it's 10 or 11% or something. We've been through this many, many times before, and I don't think, even though it's a front-page story and nobody likes to see their asset values go down, I just don't think at this point it's going to have much of an impact. I'll qualify that. Depends how long this lasts. Depends how deep it goes. But I could cite a number of historical experiences. The one I remember the most. Remember, I was a Reagan Cub Scout way back when, and I remember the 1987 market crash. And I remember President Reagan going up and saying the economy is fundamentally sound. And actually, the economy grew by 3-4% for the next couple of years after that crash. And I think President Trump said it here in this room 2 nights ago. We just think the economy is sound, and therefore, I just don't think this short-term stock market plunge is going to have any long-term effect.
The R word at this point, in other words.
Yeah, not at the moment. Not at the moment. Yes, Deborah.
If you had a friend who was thinking of taking a cruise or going to China, what advice would you give them?
Stay home.
Larry, what effect do you think this will have on the president's re-election campaign?
I think the way he's handling this will have a very positive effect on his re-election campaign. I think that, so I'm a longtime Trump friend and watcher, and now, of course, the last couple of years I've been working with him, for him. I think it was one of his best news conferences I've ever seen him give, and he laid it out. Again, really historic and unprecedented actions. And this is a government-wide effort. And so I think folks are going to look at that and say, you know what, he was doing his job very well. And I think, therefore, at the end of the day, it's going to actually help him on that.
Larry.
Yes, sir.
What emergency powers does the administration have to ramp up domestic production of the N95 masks and other personal protection equipment?
I wouldn't want to go into specifics. There are things we can do to help. There are things we can do to unclog log jams if they exist. I just don't want to go into any details on that right now. There's just a couple more. Yes, ma'am.
Can you help clear up some confusion about communications having to be funneled through the Vice President's office? There are many officials who are saying that is what has to happen, but on the record, the Vice President's office has denied that. So can you clarify, do government agencies need to clear their coronavirus communications through the Vice President's office?
There's a lot. Look, we always have coordination here. Always. All right? The NEC has to clear things. The President is the ultimate clearance authority. The Vice President's running this task force. We're just trying to coordinate our messages. It's a government-wide operation, and that's not an easy thing to do. I will say to you, though, no one's being stifled. No one's being told what to say. Look, you've got veterans. Again, I come back to this point. You've got veterans in NIH and CDC with the immense knowledge of these things. They've been through this before. And we are all ears. We want to hear what they have to say. We want to hear what they tell us. So there's a big difference between stifling and coordinating. And I think you have to coordinate. It's a big government. So, no, I don't see a problem there at all. I don't see anything wrong with that
Once again,
whatsoever.
it's a conflicting message because officials on the record have said from this administration that there is no approval process, but you're telling me that there is?
There's no hard and fast process, no. But people have common sense. So you've got this task force. Actually, I'm a member of the task force. And there's a lot of coordination going on right now. Because here's the thing. This may not be what you're looking for, but I just want to tell you, this is such a serious matter that not only do we want all the information we can possibly get, we would like to have coordinated messages just to stop any confusion with the public. And it's a real hard thing to do. But there's no hard and fast, you can't say this, you can't say that. No, that's not the case. But we're sharing information across a multiple number of agencies, and we're doing it through that task force. And we're just trying to coordinate, so we're speaking with one voice as much as possible. That's all I'm saying.
Is the CDC free to talk about coronavirus?
Let me,
Larry,
you guys, let
if
me
the
get,
G7
yes,
go on,
yes, sir.
You mentioned in the Fox interview that the president's been on the phone quite a bit. Has he spoken to CEOs of these different companies impacted by
I have.
itself? And which companies have you guys had a chance to speak with?
Oh, I wouldn't divulge that. That wouldn't be right.
Is it mostly the travel industry? I mean, can you give us an idea?
It's just across the board. We're always in touch with CEOs. One of the great parts of my job is I've gotten to work with, meet and get to know a lot of these CEOs, many of whom are just brilliant people. And that's why I cited the Tim Cook interview. Tim Cook is a terrific businessman, and he runs a great company, and he knows a whole lot about China. And he would not have said what he said if it weren't true, or at least on the ground what he saw. That's very, very important. But we're keeping an eye on everything right now. We understand this is difficult, but sometimes the psychology is a lot worse than the fact. And I understand that. That's a perfectly understandable human trait. You plan for the worst, but it doesn't necessarily mean the worst is going to happen. Just something else. Yeah.
Anecdotal, the Tim Cook story, and you said that before.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of broadly, what have you done, and what did you do back in those meetings weeks ago on this to try to deal with the supply chain problem?
Well, the government doesn't run the economy. I mean, we can learn and report on it. We can't control that. If China's taken tough steps and closed down factories or whole areas, we just have to live with that. As you know, in this room, I've said several times, the president has from day one wanted to engage with China. He's talked to Xi, wanted to help China. We wanted to send our experts over weeks ahead of when they actually went. We're working with the World Health Organization as well. We're only as good as the facts, and the facts may be harder to come by in some cases. We can't control that. My point about supply chain, I understand that economics world and the investment world is worried about that because it could slow down growth for a couple quarters. I was scanning the Wall Street Journal today, for example, looking at various stories. North American auto production is proceeding apace. Now, there are problems overseas, especially China. China auto production is terrible, auto sales are terrible, and they're going to have very poor first quarter GDP. But on the whole, again, looking at these regional Fed reports, that's the best I can do right now. We don't see any evidence of major supply chain disruptions. I'm not trying to say nothing's happening, and I think there will be impacts, but to be honest with you, at the moment, I don't see much. Now, that may be ahead of us because the next few weeks in March will be important, and we'll get new information on that. So far through February, it looks okay, and I think investors and ordinary families should take some comfort from that. So we'll take this a day at a time. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
G7 is still on?
Yes, it is.
Will the finance ministers in for the Leader Summit?
Well, the Leader Summit's in mid-June. We had our meetings yesterday. We finished up today. Still on. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a good weekend.
All rise.
See you guys ladies.
Thank you, boys.
Yeah, I wish I had the choice.
Thank you, Preset.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing business with us.
Thank you for the mint.